بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. حياكم الله. معنا اليوم مستر إبراهيم from Spain. He's the chair of the Islamic Center or Islamic Foundation in Seville. Today we will talk about many subjects about the Islamic Center and his experience from a point of view that will help us to understand more of the culture and Spain, and also especially in Seville. I think also he has a quite extensive experience in many Islamic centers around Spain, such as the Islamic Center in Granada, and as well as in Seville. Mr. Ibrahim is a graduate from Spain in Islamic Studies and English, and also in graphic design. He also studied in Scotland, so he has a quite experience around Europe in terms of knowledge. Mr. Ibrahim, currently, as I said, is the chair of the Islamic Center in Seville. We would like to know more about the history about this Islamic Center and the famous story about Omar Kanate and when he took over in 2007. It's a great pleasure to have Mr. Ibrahim with us, and I would like to give him the mic to introduce himself and also to give us his insight for us to learn more about his experience. Please, Mr. Ibrahim.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Again, thank you so much for inviting me. It's a real honor. It's a pleasure to be here with you, to be invited by the Ministry of Culture. It's really a privilege, and although it's with the distance and all these modern technologies, we still feel very close to you. And like I was saying earlier, Qatar is a country that I haven't had the pleasure to visit personally, but that I hope that inshallah we'll be able to visit one day. I think there's a big connection, or what calls to my mind is obviously through football and Qatar organizing the World Cup, and you having Xavi, which is one of our legends in Qatar now, as one of the coaches. So yeah, I think it's a country that I've always felt close to, that I haven't, life hasn't taken me there yet, but I hope that one day we can visit. And at the same time, I take the opportunity to invite you all to come to Spain if you haven't been yet. When things open up, things seems to be getting better, inshallah. Inshallah, we are progressing step by step, and Allah is allowing us to leave this pandemic behind slowly but surely. So inshallah, soon it will be over. But like I said, it's a privilege and honor to be here. And I think to start, to introduce myself and to kind of put in context who we are and what we do, the first thing would really be, it probably calls your attention that I'm obviously Muslim, I'm Spanish, and I'm not from an immigrant origin. I'm born Spanish. That means both my parents, my father, my mother, my great-grandparents are all from Spain. And they became Muslim about 40, 50 years ago, before they even got married, and before obviously I was born. So I was born in Spain as a Muslim kid in a Muslim family with a Muslim community. And it's really up to them when they, it's really up to them when in late 1970s, 80s, there was a dictatorship in Spain with Franco. And when he passed away, there was a sort of intellectual or spiritual revolution where people were looking for answers. Where before it was very difficult. Before the only religion allowed in Spain or public in Spain was Catholicism. So there was no allowance for any other expression. And so a lot of the people found Islam back in the day. And obviously when they became Muslim, the first thing they tried to do was to establish the deen in themselves, in the families, in the surroundings. And they made a huge effort in transmitting the deen to ourselves, to the families through education, and to establish the deen really in themselves and transmit it to other people. And they've been doing dawah throughout Spain, and they have been doing a great job. One of the things they did is one could somehow relate it or use it as a metaphor. the fact that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he arrived to Medina, the first thing he did was to establish the mosque. Well, it's actually the second thing. The first thing he did was the unification of the Muhajirun and the Ansar. The second thing he did was to establish the mosque through the famous story of the camel. So in a way, what our parents did when they arrived or when they became Muslim was started that the work towards establishment of the first mosque in Granada after 600 years. And it took them 30 years, but alhamdulillah, they succeeded, and it's been open, an open reality and a place of coexistence with the neighborhood, and a shining light, I think, of the Deen of Islam in this time. It's also a place where a lot of people have managed to come to know the Deen of Islam through these lights and its beauty, and in a connection with the history the beautiful history that we have with Islam in this country. And also it's been a place where people have managed to connect to the reality of Islam beyond their stereotypes and the prejudices that we have, and the image that really has been given of Islam all over the world about some people. They tend to connect it with terrorism, with many horrible things that we need to try make an effort to convey the true image and the light of Islam. So that was kind of the main step that they did, and then it was basically to convey it to the second generation, which in a context, if you can imagine, I was grown up here in Spain. I have traveled a lot, but I was brought up in Spain. And, you know, a lot of people ask me, well, was it difficult to be Muslim in Spain? In a way, when I have been able to travel, and I've been to many Muslim countries, and you realize in the difficulty of carrying your faith or your deen forward in Spain, at the same time, it's been a blessing, because if you wanted it, you really needed to fight for it. You could not take it for granted. So in a way, that's made it easy for us. We could not just take the deen for granted and say, well, I was born Muslim, everyone around me is Muslim, there's mosques everywhere. We live in a society where everything calls you away from the deen, where dunya is so apparent that everything is calling you away from towards whatever it is, drinking or any of the things that are calling you away from Allah. And so in that sense, it's easy, because you really need to make a conscious decision. You can't just relax, chill. Oh, everyone's Muslim, I hear that, then I can go to the mosque. It really needs to be a conscious decision, and that I believe it gives you a certain strength. You really need to fight for it, which is, I think, is good. And up to a moment is, I think it's a reality as well for every single Muslim, that the deen is a gift from Allah, and it's something that we cannot take for granted. It's really a hidayah that we should appreciate and take forward. So I don't know if I'm extending too much in my introduction, or if there's any specific questions that you want to ask, because I could literally speak for hours about all of these things, and I do not want to bother you. I don't even know what the time frame is.
I would suggest that if we also focus on the Islamic Center of Seville.
Okay. Please. So basically, the whole story that I spoke of before kind of puts you in context of me being in Seville. So basically, we're trying to replicate or even do better, inshallah, what the work that our parents, we kind of continuing the work that our parents did. And the project is, I'll try to be as swift as I can. You have to think of mosques in terms of in time and in space. So a mosque today in Seville doesn't fulfill the same functions that a mosque in Seville 700 years ago, where most of the population were Muslim. And the mosque today in Spain probably does not fulfill the same requirements or needs of a mosque in Qatar, for instance, where everyone around it, or most of the people around it, are Muslim. So it's the approach that we need to take is a very and I think it should really be the correct approach in all Muslim minority countries, where it's a very social approach. It's an approach of being implicated within society. Someone said that Muslims have arrived in Europe, and that is taken, is everyone can see that. But one could argue, has Islam arrived in Europe? In the sense that Islam is a transforming energy, is something that transforms society for the better. So if we as Muslims are not transforming society for the better, if we're not, like you said, implicated in all aspects of society, not just the deen as a religious thing that we do in the mosque, Muslims as human beings, we should be taking care of the needs of people, whether it's hunger, unemployment, cleaning the streets, whatever it is, there needs to be that social implication. So going back to the project, our purpose, our aim is to create the Islamic Cultural Center based on the project of an institution or similar institution called in Turkey, which is called the Imaret, which is a place of service where you have clinics, where you have a place to feed the poor, where you had working spaces, where you have, so that in a way modernized, you will have a business office, you will have co-working spaces for young people, you have a library, you have places to feed the poor, whether they're Muslims or not, obviously through distribution of zakat, but also through sadaqah, where you have all these aspects of things that are in turn not only making a positive impact on society, but also a positive image on the deen. And I think in that regard, Allah has placed us as Spanish Muslims in a very privileged position to be able to change the perception that people have of Islam. Because generally people think, oh, Islam is this Arab thing. Well, it's not an Arab thing. The country with the biggest Muslim population is Indonesia. And there's Muslims in Indonesia as there are in Qatar or in the States or everywhere. And so I think we're in a privileged position to be able to change that. There is the three aspects which we want to base the project is the Islamic Cultural Center, which is what I spoke about, the mosque, which is the obvious needs for the mosque. It's also a place of uniting the Muslims. And then the third aspect would be the awqaf, which is also a very important element, which is to make it self-sufficient so that it doesn't rely on a third party constantly having to finance it or provide for it, and that it makes it self-sufficient for the current generation and generations to come. So those are basically the three kind of in a very short span of time, the three kind of elements in which we based the project.
You know, it's great to have some insight from you on this. Can you tell us a little bit more about the story about Kanute, Mr. Kanute, and
Umar is incredible. He's a man that I genuinely love, and he's whatever opinion you may have of him, of seeing, is not even close to what he is. He's a humble man. He's a man of Allah. He's a man who is dedicated to help other people, who to change the perception that people have of Islam. But through his character, through his good actions, through his positiveness, through helping others, he's an incredible man. And for me personally, it's been a gift, really, to be able to work with him. I've even had the chance to travel with him, and he's a very funny guy, and he really portrays that. It also shows the influence that you can have on society with that positiveness and with that using the status that he has, that we have given him because of him being a football player, and using it in a good way. So he's really incredible, and for us in Seville and for the Muslim community, it's an honor and a gift to have him with us in our team, as we say, and he's been very much involved, like in the Kanute for Seville campaign that we had. And through different venues. By the way, he was meant to be here today. His actual business now is soccer transfer management, which he does in a very honorable way, in terms of dealing with the kids that he brings from Africa, not exploiting them, and showing them the whole process of becoming a football star and maintaining your character and your dignity as a human being, right? So it's a very busy transfer at the moment, market, so he couldn't make it, but he has conveyed his greetings, and he obviously knows that I'm here today. So yeah, for us, just having Umar in the team is really great, and it's also very good in terms of PR to the city, to Seville, because in Seville he's extremely loved. obviously, when you do anything like this, and you mention mosque or Muslims, there's going to be people that don't smile, that don't like it. However well you try to portray it, however beautiful you try to convey it, some people just have this perception and they're very close. But so we had this far right-wing party who, when we were doing the campaign with Canute, they posted in the Twitter something negative. Oh, not really negative, but say, well, we're going to look with a magnifying glass to see where these people get the finance and who is going to be the imam in the mosque and all of these things. And you just see the replies. I was overwhelmed. Work with him I've even had the chance to travel with him, and he's a very funny guy, and he really portrays that. It also shows the influence that you can have on society with that positiveness and with that using the status that he has, that we have given him because of him being a football player, and using it in a good way. So he's really incredible, and for us in Seville and for the Muslim community, it's an honor and a gift to have him with us in our team, as we say, and he's been very much involved, like in the Canute for Seville campaign that we had, and through different venues. By the way, he was meant to be here today. His actual business now is soccer transfer management, which he does in a very honorable way, in terms of dealing with the kids that he brings from Africa, not exploiting them, and showing them the whole process of becoming a football star and maintaining your character and your dignity as a human being, right? So it's a very busy transfer at the moment, market, so he couldn't make it, but he has conveyed his greetings, and he obviously knows that I'm here today. So yeah, for us, just having Umar in the team is really great, and it's also very good in terms of PR to the city, to Seville, because in Seville he's extremely loved. Obviously, when you do anything like this, and you mention mosque or Muslims, there's going to be people that don't smile, that don't like it. However well you try to portray it, however beautiful you try to convey it, some people just have this perception and they're very close. But so we had this far right-wing party who, when we were doing the campaign with Canute, they posted in the Twitter something negative. Oh, not really negative, but say, well, we're going to look with a magnifying glass to see where these people get the finance and who is going to be the imam in the mosque and all of these things. And you just see the replies. I was overwhelmed from Spanish people, from Seville, saying you do not slander Umar. If Umar is behind this mosque, I'm behind this mosque. If Canute is with you, I'm with you. I was surprised. This is like the comments on the thing. So he's a very respected man, and in Seville. So for us, that's obviously very, very positive, and he's created a very positive influence in the project.
Thank you for sharing with us this. Omar is also a role model in the football world as a person and
absolutely.
Society. Before we ask the audience if they have any questions and for you, I would like to also ask you these questions in terms of perceptions in Spain and the Spanish people. Of course, the history, as you mentioned earlier, the history and the perception has a negative impact long ago. And since the new development and the new Western world, and now you guys are trying to be part of the society. What what is the difficulties they face? I mean, what is the difficulties that they face in terms of their faith and showing their faith and maybe not participating in some of the activities in Spain? And we know some of the ceremonies regarding the previous time of Muslim and Andalus and all of this. So what is the impact?
Yes, it's a very broad question, and it will be very difficult to simplify it or to make a generalization, right? But I would like to think, and I would like to think in a positive way, that there's been a reconciliation with our own history, and I say my own history as my own, in terms of accepting the incredible legacy that the Muslims left behind. And that I'll tell you a short story. My late father-in-law, my wife is also convert, or she's a convert, used to always tell me, do not think that the Alhambra Palace in Granada was built by the Muslims. It was built by us, the people of Granada. And both are true. It was built by the people of Granada because these people lived there for generations after generations. So that itself is making it a Spanish thing. So one of the aspects that we try to convey is that to make Islam something that belongs in the country, something that is not foreign, that is imported, or that doesn't belong here. So we need to try and convey that it's something that belongs here. I'm Spanish. My culture is Spanish culture. It's not Indonesian culture or Turkish culture or Qatari culture. My culture is Spain, even in the way they dress. I dress like the Spanish people. And so all of these things help to understand that Islam is an international thing. And I like to think that, that there is a reconciliation with our own history. That also needs to come from the Muslim. And I'm also very critical with ourselves in terms of the Muslims cannot go from the mosque to the house to the job and back to the house and then complain that society is not treating you well. We really need to make an effort. We really need to go out there. We really need to take care of the people around us and society. I mean, this is Sunnah. You should be concerned about your neighbor. You should know if your neighbor, regardless of whatever religion he is. The Prophet Muhammad he used to care for this neighbor who always saw him, and then the one day he didn't see him. He asked, "Where is this?" I don't know if it was a man or a woman. So we should be concerned about our neighbors, and I think in a way people find it difficult as well. And I obviously speak from a perspective of being Spanish, which in a way sort of makes it easier, one could say. But the people that have immigrated, whether are first or second or third generation, the kids that are born here, they're Spanish. They don't. So we need to kind of make them feel Spanish. There's a little bit of an identity crisis where they think, am I Muslim or am I Spanish? So they need to understand that you can be both. It's absolutely fine. You can be Spanish and Muslim, and you can. So, and there's many elements in that, but we are working with that. And I think there's many things like small things like the khutbah in the Juma. If it's given in Arabic, obviously Arabic is the language of the revelation and is our common language of the Muslim Ummah. But it should also be given in Spanish because you have people that are new Muslims that don't understand any Arabic whatsoever. They need to feel part of it. They need to understand. And the kids don't even know their mother language, Arabic. So they need to learn it in the local language so they can also transmit it and live through it in that language. So I think there's been a lot of progress, and there's many organizations, associations of youth, Muslims that are doing a great job and socially very active. So I think we're working in the right direction.
That's really great. I would leave the people who are attending here to, if you have any questions for Ibrahim, we can ask him any questions. So please go ahead and open your mic to ask the questions.
I want to ask the Said, from my side, I have a ton of questions, but if you have one, you can go first.
No. Please.
Hello, Mr. Ibrahim. First, I think your name Ibrahim right now, but it was Louis, yes?
Yes, in my case, it's Habboth, yeah.
Yes. So you changed your name from Louis to Ibrahim, I'm correct?
In my case, it's a bit more complicated, but I was born as Muslim, so I was given Ibrahim, but in my passport, I had Louis. But most people, when they do become Muslim, they kind of tend to take a Muslim name, but in the ID, it stays whatever old name they had.
My question is, like, I know a lot of friends, like my friends from like America or different countries that change their names. Still, they are using their old names for like some other reasons, for work reasons. Do you feel like this in work communities, on and treating with others, because you said you are in a business, yes, and a businessman too.
Yes.
So when you deal with other, you have another deals, and on your work time, do you feel like the people, when you give them Ibrahim or you give them Louis? I think because some of my friends told me we better to use our old names just to make the things easier on us.
Yeah, it's actually a good question, and it goes back to the question of identity, really. And for just to give you an example, for me, with my kids, I have 3 kids. One is called Salma, other one is called Laila, and my small boy is called Nabil. So what I try to do is, obviously you try to find a name that is meaningful, that has a meaning, that connects with you and with the kid, that is, but also at the same time that is a name that is easily pronounced, for starters, in the country that they're going to live. So I think the whole thing of having 2 names could be a bit complicated. I know it's an issue, especially in people that convert to Islam. So I don't know, it would really depend on the people how to deal with it. I'm not sure. I use Ibrahim all the time.
Shukran, Ahmed. Thank you very much. Anybody else? Or I can ask you a question. Mr. Ibrahim, this question is just about a little bit about your personal life and the work that you do. Please share with us your, what has changed? What changed your life in terms when you start managing this Islamic mosque beside your professional work?
Yeah, it is demanding, to be honest. And this is a life choice that people have to take. And I will not say one is better than the other, but you have to be confident in whichever you take. And I think one is as needed as the other. And for me, it was a choice that it was handed over to me to come to Seville, to move to Seville, because I was living in Granada at the time, and to take over the project and the community here. And it was challenging at times, but like Umar, I will quote Umar Kanute said, Allah will not ask us how many goals I scored or how much money I've made, but he will ask us what we did with our time and what we did with the means that I have. So in that regard, it's a choice that Allah will test you with, because it's not easy. It's not easy. I'm 39 and I have spent already 7 years in Seville, probably the most productive years of my life, one could say. I do come from a background of where Allah gave me abundant risk, alhamdulillah. And obviously it's not the same situation now. We live a lot more of a modest life, but one have to put in the balance the reward that you get in this life and obviously in the hereafter. It's almost like working for your Akhira retirement fund, which sometimes we forget about, which is really the important fund that we should work for. So, and I come from, my family has always been into business and retail and import and export and all of these things. And it's a business that is a world that attracts me. But at the end of the day, and from the last 7 years, especially on the last 4 more precisely, I've been dedicated to this 100%. And to be honest, I would not change it for anything in my life. I'm very extremely grateful to Allah for putting me in this position, and to be able to, I've met prime ministers, I've managed to travel throughout the world, not because of me, not because of anything that I have done personally, not because of anything that I have achieved, but because people understand and appreciate and want to support the growth and the expansion and the vision that we have of Islam, and in a place that is so important historically as it is the city of Seville in Spain.
How do you see the meaning of life?
Yeah, for me, it really is about reminding oneself constantly that everything life starts by intention, is by the niyat, by the intention. And so one needs to remind that whatever you're doing, it's really about the intention. And the intention comes from a purified heart and remembrance. So it's about having that pure intention and doing things for Allah. Whatever you do, if it's business and the profit that you're making is being used in the good cause, that's even better. That's one of the few people that you can be jealous of, really. So really, for me, it's about the intention and knowing that at the end of the day, everything we do in life and all the good actions, however many one can do, will never be enough to take you to the Jannah in the next life. We know that it's only by the rahmah of Allah that we will be granted that. So you really do those actions, whatever good actions you do, in search of that mercy of the rahmah of Allah. So you do it with the best intention, and knowing that however good your actions, however generous, however amazing your actions may be, they're never good enough. They're not. Those are not the things that will take you to the hereafter. But it's only by the mercy of Allah that you will take it. So, but you do them with that intention, with searching for that mercy of Allah, inshallah. So I think that's really what one of the engines of what keeps you going through the challenges, because we go through challenges in life. Is not always easy. We go through difficult times, or times where you have doubt in your heart, and all of these things. So it's good to remind yourself and surround yourself with people that remind you of that as well.
Yes, Ibrahim. Okay, we have one last question from Mohammed, I think, because I think at time will, I don't want to use a lot of your time.
It's a pleasure. I'm not rush at all.
So Mohammed, please.
Assalamu alaikum, my brother Ibrahim.
Wa alaikum salam, Sayyid Muhammad.
How are you?
I'm well, alhamdulillah. So,
first of all, I call brother because you already our brother in Islam.
Likewise, Muhammad.
My pleasure to meet you today, and we support all of your effort in this blessing project. We all support with you and with the prayer Umar. We are proud of you, Mr. Ibrahim, our brother Ibrahim. Okay. My questions, brother. What the challenge you faced as the personal and general for this center? What the fact the challenge you faced to this center by the personal level and the general level?
Yes.
This first questions, because I took other my questions also. What you are looking for to investment for the youth for this center? How you can polarization all the youth in the civil to engage with this center? That's two questions. It is clear my questions, yeah.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Thank you. The challenge, the personal challenge, really is. For me, it's being conscious that however much we do and however clever we may think we do and however hard we work, the things only happen by the kun fayakun of Allah, and having that present, because it is very challenging and it's a huge burden to put that on your shoulders and to think that things happen in life because of how much you do and how much you have and how clever you are. And it's something that we unconsciously do, and we unconsciously think that we can achieve this if we do it this way or that way, and then Allah puts you in your place, and you have to have patience and you have perseverance, and so that's personally it's been the challenge, and to be able to enjoy the ride, enjoy the trip, and because we may die any moment, and all we gonna take with us is what's being recorded. So. That's for me my personal challenge. In a more general way, the challenge would be, for me, it's to try. I would love for people to love the deen the way I love it, and I would love for people to understand it and see it the way I love it. So it's challenging for me to try and portray this to the people out there in the street when the image that is being portrayed massively through social media, through the media, it's very, very different. So it's very difficult to kind of achieve that, to try and say, well, this is Islam. But people are pointing out, well, I mean, the news and everything else is telling us otherwise. It's like, no, but you have to really come. And the good thing, the positive thing about it is that when you meet face to face with people and they see you and they interact with you, they automatically change the perception of Islam. So and that gives us hope. And we have people coming through to the Deen. We have another Shahada this coming Friday. Every week, every 2 weeks, people are coming to the Deen. So for me, being born Muslim, it's incredible. It's astonishing, really. I mean, it's like, why? What makes you come to the Islam? I mean, with everything that is out there. So those are kind of the two main challenges that I would point out. And remind me the second question, please.
The another question is how you can investment for the youth effort in this.
Yes, it's difficult. It's difficult. It's not easy. It's not easy. I think it's a challenge everywhere, and it's something you need to make it attractive. I mean, there's something of trying to get them a sense of belonging, right? So that a love for the Deen. I had a friend who told me, you know, if the kids, if they're not praying, if they're not fasting, it's not because they don't know the fiqh of salah or of sound. It's because we haven't been able to transmit the love of Allah and the love for Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So it's really that is the challenge: is how to transmit this love for them and how to make them interact. And I think one of the key elements, this is a very personal opinion, is you have to engage them in service. They need to feel useful to society. So you need to put them at the forefront. You need to put them in the first line of service, of helping, because that will make them feel good and they will make them feel part of something. So we need to be very creative in creating ways and means of interaction with the youth so that they can be feel part of a broader community and feel helpful towards the community. Not just the Muslim community, but the community or the place wherever they live. So it's challenging. It's not easy. It's more of an idea than a reality, and it's something we kind of facing on day-to-day basis. But alhamdulillah, I have to say that the youth that we have, considering the fact that they're going to schools that where 99% of the people around them are not Muslims, and they are people that are keeping their faith and have a strong iman, and they're growing up as Muslims. And it's a challenge. I have daughters that are going to school. One is 13, the other one is 10. It's not easy. And the things that now society is trying to portray on the kids sometimes are very difficult, very different to the ones that, the values that we want to portray to them sometimes. So it's challenging, but we have to, I think it's definitely worth the effort. And there was just this morning, I was at the mosque, and I was speaking to the imam, and because they're changing the regulations all the time in terms of how many people you're allowed in the mosque or not. And I said, I miss the kids in the mosque because we haven't had many kids coming to the mosque because of the regulations and the masks and stuff. And there was a Turkish proverb that was written in some mosques that said, if you don't hear kids playing in the back while you're praying, you should fear for the future of the Deen in your land. And it's a reality, yeah? And we have to, sometimes we get anxious and we tell them to shush, shut up and stay quiet, and we have to educate them and teach them, but at the same time be aware that if you have kids playing in the back while you're praying, it's a good sign. So we need to try and get them there and be part of it, inshallah.
Thank you, Brother Ibrahim. Thank you so much. And I'm looking to come to Doha, to visit our Doha, to celebrate.
Thank you. You should come and visit us in Seville, inshallah. Marhaban.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ibrahim. It was a very wonderful time spent with you and listening to this insight of the challenges and your thoughts and your knowledge about managing and living there. It's a great pleasure having you here, and we look forward to maybe in the future to maybe visit Doha, or maybe you have another session where we ask you about more, and we have the company of Mr. Omar Kanate.
Jazakallah khair.
Thank you very much for your time, and that's all. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, Saud. Thank you, everyone. And assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.